Now this video begins with the gathering of the composting material. Please let me know of any questions you may have in the comments. Sorry for this interruption. Man, I will tell you, so there are at least 6 big advantages to this composting method that are due to the key feature of this method. The key feature is that the compost is made on the garden bed that it is going to be used for. Now, I will list the 6 key advantages as they are demonstrated throughout the rest of this video. And now, back to the show. Alright, so you can see over here is all that fresh chicken bedding I just hauled from the coop. And this pile is the one that I'm going to be flipping. This pile has been sitting on the future garden bed in one section of it. It's about 4 foot by 4 foot by 2.5, 3 foot high. And it's been sitting here for, 1 to 2 weeks. I have to double check, but I'm going to take this pile and I'm going to flip it over onto this spot, right there. So, it'll take from 4 foot, this way, and flip it over to cover an additional 4 foot right over here. And in the flipping process, I'm going to be adding all of that fresh chicken bedding that we just hauled over here. And of course, we're going to be watering every layer. So the first step, of course, is scraping off the dry cover leaves. Remember, I use leaves for covering the compost, dry leaves. For insulation rather than plastic. I don't like plastic, having plastic covering the compost. And then especially those blue cheap tarps that start to break down and put blue plastic strings everywhere. So I'm going to be scraping all of this off the top dry layer to the side. I got a few special additions to this compost pile. There's already one in there, which is quite interesting. The special addition I have is for this turning is the leftover turkey carcass here, and then I got another little mouse killed by our cats. And look what has discovered the mouse. Oh my goodness, a whole bunch of fire ants. That means I'm going to have to be dodging fire ants during this process. That always makes compost flipping a bit more exciting or something. So that'll be great. I'm going to turn him in there along with the ants, and that'll be the process. Oh yes, I also wanted to mention that the spot that I'm flipping into, so this compost pile here is going to be flipping over to here. All of this spot right in here has been previously covered with compost last season, and it's currently just covered with mulch to protect all that soil and compost down there. And so one of the first things I also have to do, in addition to scraping the leaves off of the compost pile, is scrape off all this mulch to get down to the layer of compost from last season when I did this garden bed here. Now, I also wanted to give you a little idea of the scope here of this compost, of this garden bed. It's going to be about 4 foot wide, and we're going to flip it one time here. That'd be 8 feet, and then another time here. That'd be 12 feet, and then another time here. That'd be about 16 feet, and then what would this be, like our 5th time flipping? That'd be 20 feet, because that'd be, yeah, 20. Anyways, we're going to go all the way over to, you can see this mulch right here covering last season's bed, and it's going to come all the way out here to the end, right next to my other end of my other beds. So it'll be a total of about 40 feet, 3 to 4 feet wide, 40 feet long, and I guess that'll take about 10 flips of the compost to get all the way to the end. So if I do about 1 per week, then we might get to the end by, well, this is January, the beginning of January. We might get to the end to the end of this bed by the end of February, in time for the spring season. So this bed will have had all of this compost has been flipped, with its juices going down and adding to the soil nutrition throughout the whole next couple of months, and killing the weed seeds with some of the heat, and feeding the soil biology. And then after the end, it's getting down to the end, it will sit there for a week or two, and then I will spread it all the way over this 40 feet. Of course, I'm going to be adding enough, because that takes a lot of compost to spread over this 40 feet. So I'll spread it and then use it. Anyhow, I wanted to mention that particular aspect about this process that I'm doing here, flipping over the bed that I've already established. And so in getting that fresh chicken bedding that I put down here, I ended up pulling off some of the cover for the path of compost 12. I pulled it off and accidentally added it to this compost pile number 12. And the point is, I need to recover this path right here. And then there's supposed to be a little 2-foot path in between compost pile number 11 and this new compost pile number 12. But compost pile 12 has kind of gotten extra wide here, not leaving much of a path. And I wanted to point out the dying weeds, grass, lawn that is where compost pile 12 was sitting for a couple of weeks or so, and it started to kill this grass. Now that's why I need to cover it, to keep it dying and feeding soil microbes to get it nice and soft on the topsoil. And it's got all those nice juices from the compost pile that were sitting there. And then I will continue to turn this one on down the row. And you see I'm making 3 long beds here that I'll be ready to start by the spring. But that is the process of turning the compost and preparing the garden beds simultaneously by the no-dig method. Of course, one other thing that I have to do still is put fresh leaves down here where compost pile number 12 was sitting initially. Cover that all up, and then I have to put fresh leaves on top of compost pile 12. Just cover it with a nice layer of insulation with dry fresh leaves, protect it from the sun and from too much additional moisture or drying out too quickly. I don't know if I have enough leaves to cover it all right now. I'm probably going to have to rake up a bunch of leaves tomorrow, because in addition to all the leaves that I need for covering this area, I need more leaves for covering the chicken floor, the bedding for the chickens. I need to put down a fresh layer of leaves where I just now pulled out all of their bedding over there. So that's going to take a bunch, and you can see I got a small pile of leaves right here that will cover the flooring nicely, but it may not leave much for covering my compost pile. So they're hopefully going to be ready within 2 or 3 months to spread over this entire bed to make a nice spring garden. And so we shall see. So lots of leaves. So this method works very well if you have a whole lot of material handy to use for mulch and covering and bedding and all of that stuff, which I am thankful that I have a large piece of property. I can gather lots of leaves and other things to use. So otherwise you have to import it and perhaps pay money for it, which I'm hoping to not have.